Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening. I'm aware that people are watching this at all sorts of different times and all sorts of different places. So let's have a look then. So yeah, as I mentioned just briefly there, you should have the panel in front of you now that you're viewing this from. There are some buttons on the bottom, and with those buttons you can turn on the screens around the edge, and yours might look slightly differently to mine. Certainly the panel in the middle with the presentation on, you should have that as large as possible. We'll try to make things as big as possible on the screen, so you can control it at the bottom. We've got things like here, we've got a survey we'd love you to fill in at the end. You've got the actual screen in the middle, the view screen. There's a video that I'm going to play, so make sure you get access to the video section, and we'll make that as big as you can when we play the video, and I'll give you a fair warning about that. If you want to add a question or look at the answers at the questions, and again, we'll try and post out questions and answers at the end so that if you missed something or you weren't quite sure, then we can get a good idea about it. Maybe there's some questions we can't answer, but we'll try and answer as many as possible. There's some links in the top right-hand corner, one of our case studies, to the website, to Symetri in general. So I think that's about it, really. Let's get started. So we're here to look at a product called Sovelia Configurator. Sovelia is a range or a family of products, and Configurator sits in that from a company called Symetri. So the aim of the presentation today, it's so that you can understand what's the potential of Sovelia Configurator and also gain some knowledge to further your configurator journey. The time's about 45 to 55 minutes. It all just depends on how we go with the questions. Okay. So some interesting reading that I did recently. This is an Autodesk website, Redshift, and it was quite an interesting question they posed at the start of the year. What will manufacturing look like in 2021? The top 5 trends to watch. And the number one trend that they recommend, or that's going to happen, is higher demand for bespoke products. We always speak to a lot of customers, and a lot of our customers say that, well, our products are one-off. It can't be, we can't make it as a production run, or we can't automate it. And once we start digging, we find out that, okay, well, maybe it's not the whole product you can automate, but maybe it's part of the product or part of the process, or certainly that gathering of information that you might need towards producing the product, or the relationship between sales and engineering. So that's on one side of the coin. On the other side, we have some of our products which are really, really automatable. They're standard products. They get configured in standard ways. It might be that, again, it's between sales and it's between engineering. It might be from an engineering production view. There's loads of reasons why people want to configure products. And probably because you're here today, you've recognized that in your company there is a specific need, or there might be a need for that. Or maybe you just want to find out more information as to what that is. And so hopefully we can do that today. By giving you the information about the product we have, then you'll be able to make the choice or make the decision as to how you might want to use it. So Sovelia Configurator, then, the primary goal is to automate the flow of data to offer more customer choice at a lower cost. Now, when we talk about the customer there, it might be your customers, or internally it might be other departments that are your customers. For instance, in some cases, if we're in engineering, we could see sales as being our customer. Sales give us the information, sales offer us the information that we can then, from an engineering point of view, act on that and produce a product or make a design. So lots of different ways we can think about customer. So looking at the product, what are the benefits? So the benefits then are you can convert technical product descriptions into customer language and sales requirements. Sometimes it's from an engineering or from a sales point of view, we don't put the customer first, and we don't think about the customer in their terms. And this is quite good. It's quite a good process to go through to actually to standardize on what you're offering a customer, and in a language and in a form that a customer can very easily interact with. And it means that you get the right result. Yeah, we can also have instant cost updates, and you'll see that in the demonstration that I go through later. You know, making a change, customers can see what the difference in cost is between the options that they pick. And again, it might make them more likely to go down one route than another route. Maybe that's a more automated route. It's an easy to use interface. Again, I'll show that in the demonstration that I'm doing. It's an on-screen graphical interface, graphical way of interacting and making the configurations and making the choices. Something that normally is quite difficult, or we're using a spreadsheet, or we have other tools that we use, but really we're trying to make it as easy and as simple as possible. We also have this rules notation. You know the way that your product works and how it might interact, or how you can do things. And if you select something, you can't select something else. And if you have this is an option. And if this is a certain size, then you can't do this, or you can do that. And again, if we can incorporate that into the product, that means that we take away the thinking. We also take away the issues and the problems that you might have. We can get access to product information anywhere at any time on any device. It's kind of an old message now, but it's really, really important. And it also means that there's lots of ways that people want to interact with your designs, your information, sales-wise. And again, in the current climate, if someone doesn't have to call the customer as a physical call or as a telephone conversation, and that can help the process, then even better. We can integrate to lots of different other systems, lots of other business systems, be it computer-aided design, engineering resource planning, CRM system, which holds all our customer data. If you have a PLM system or not, we have PLM solutions, but we can have interaction one way or both ways. The interface for customers is 100% web-based. So it's possible to do lots of different things and interact with it in lots of different ways. It also supports as well a configure to order process and an engineering to order process. And I'm going to just touch on these in a little bit, just to give us an idea about what that might mean. So if we look at understanding then, configure to order then, it's a unique customer order, but typically for your company, it's a fixed design with a specification to start. You connecting standard elements that you have in stock or you buy in, and you configure those in different ways to get different results. But it's standard information, standard things that you have. If we look at the engineering to order side, though, it's still a unique customer order. But you may find that the final specification isn't fully known when the order's placed or when you're going through that ordering process. It could contain somewhere between 0 and 99% of the configure to order solution with extra information added that needs to be engineered on top of the solution. And we can show you how that can be included into the solution that we offer. So I'm going to just leave this slide up for you to focus on a little while. This is a graphic that we've come up with to describe our configurator. There's lots of different areas and lots of different sections. And when someone says to me, well, what is a configurator? What's your configurator? What does it look like? How does it work? What does it do? This is how we would describe it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time now going through all of this graphic and looking at all of the different areas. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to understand what each of the areas mean, what they could mean for your business, what they could mean for your products, what they could mean for your processes in your organization. And you can then make a judgment as to which of these areas you may want to investigate further and what are the benefits of our solution. So let's start with that user experience then. Highlighted in green here then are the two user experiences that we've got. Over on the left-hand side there, we talk about our 100% web-based user experience. So be it internally in your organization, on the intranet or the extranet, you can access the configurator. Maybe you just want to use this from an engineering department and everyone in engineering. Maybe you're across sites, maybe you're across the globe, but you just want to look at this product internally. Or if you have a sales force and a sales base and you want to use this from a sales point of view, you might want customers outside your organization to access the information, in which case there's a web interface to do that. Again, no software needs to be installed. All you need is a web browser and access to the correct location to get access to the configurator. Yeah, so we talk about that there, internally, externally, 100% web-based. Just giving you some screenshots. So this is an example of one of our products, and I'm going to show you this in a bit more detail in a minute. But we can see here a nice, crisp, clean interface. On the left-hand side, we've got the information. Top right-hand corner, we've got price building up. We've got some controls to move it around. We can also have different products configured. So you can have hundreds and hundreds of different products or product ranges configured and being able to pick from them from a start menu. We also keep all the information. So if you've made a configuration or a customer's made a configuration, you can go back to it at any point and you can copy it and you can see what's in it, go and edit it and change it. And here we see just on the left-hand side some of the choices we're making around the product. So web interface, really clean, crisp. This is just the default web interface. We can customize this and tailor this, and it can also be embedded into your web pages. So if you have a particular theme or you have a particular style, again, we can incorporate this window into that style. So then we look at the bottom section, the rule engine server. In our case, then, this is the real core of our solution. It's the heart of what we do. It's the decision-making engine. It's Symetri-owned technology. And it's server-based. So from the web, all those people accessing the web, they will need to access a server location. And again, this server location could be inside your organization, or it could be in the cloud. We have a number of customers now who are deploying the configurator server out to the cloud, and then people access it via the web. Okay, so the rules-based server, then we'll see how that works and what that does. Part of the core then is how we interface between the web and the engine. And we're going to look at the graphical side of that now. There's really three levels to the graphical side. The simplest and the quickest and the easiest thing to do is just putting up static images. So static images might be text, option lists, or still pictures that you can use to describe the product that you're looking at. You could have a product that exists already, go out and take a photograph for it, and that photograph then forms the picture that people see to say, would you like one like this, or is this what you're looking for? We can, we can have calculations. It's very simple to implement. You can expand later on to 2D and 3D graphical images and graphical interface if you want to. It's a really good starter place to start. Start with some static images, give an idea about it, give the list information, and then you can grow with the solution. Some examples are then things like photographs of your actual product. In this case here, for a car selection, you might put all the different options for car wheels up that you have, and you just click on the wheel that you want, and then that's the one that's going to be part of your configuration. Also quite good for technical images. So CAD, if you want to use CAD to measure and draw things, you could put up, what length do you want this? What size do you want that? How big do you want this? So we've got some examples of that here. Again, if we look about the static images, again, I could use the wheels on the left-hand side here to just click on the wheel that I want. I want that one as in part of my configuration. At the bottom there, we can see just a generic picture. And maybe you can then pick from the list what length you want, or what diameter you want, or what head size you want it to be. And on the right-hand side, then we've just got a pick box selection. So depending on the configuration that you want, you just pick the option that you want. In this case, it's about colors, and you can just pick the color that you want for the different elements of the design. So very quick, very simple to set up static images. Moving on from static images then, the next thing that you might want to look at is 2D graphics. So with 2D graphics then, it's a static image that's pre-recorded. It's very good for simple products. So if your product's not complicated, maybe it's one product, maybe it's a range of products which go together in a particular order. The images can be produced and automated quite quickly and easily from 3D models. So if you've got 3D models and you just want snapshot pictures of those, then we can do that as part of an automated process. Any image type can be used, and the views are fixed, so you can't spin the model around, and if you haven't published the picture or the image, then you can't change the view. So we have an example for that, and there's a link. One of the links is to our study case for Dune. They have got about 1,000 combinations of one of their products. So that's a good solution for 2D graphics. About 1,000 would be, any more than that, and we'd think start to head towards 3D graphics. But if you have one product or one product combination, and you don't think you're going to want any more than 1,000 pictures of it, 2D graphics is great. We've got an example of that here. So in this case here, what we've done is this is inside the web. And what we've done is we render the image using 3D Studio Max. So we've got an image that the customer gave us, or a CAD model that the customer gave us. And that image then, we've rendered it up, and we've put all the relevant information on it and the detail that we want. And once we've done that, what we can then do is we can then automate a picture being taken. In this case, we wanted it every corner. So a picture's being taken at every corner. And then in the window, you can see there are arrows at either end of the image. And those arrows mean that we can scroll around the image, giving us different pictures of the image. So we get choices, and you can see different combinations. But you can see there, one choice, we got 4 images of that. The images build up quite quickly. But as we've said, we can help with the automation of that. And we're still in the context of the web configuration, and we've still got our choices on the right-hand side. And as we change those choices on the right-hand side, maybe we add an option, maybe we take out an option, the images are going to update to suit that. That's 2D graphics for you. Then we come on to the 3D graphics. So with 3D graphics then, we can rotate the model, we can move the model around in real time, get in closer, look at it from different edges. So again, if it's either a highly configurable product that you've got, or maybe one with a lot of detail, you might want to go to that 3D graphic route. The models have to be pre-generated, and pre-generated with all the options. However, we actually build the models on the screen when you pick the selections or you make the clicks for them. It's more complex models can be displayed. And again, if you've got something where you want to see lots of different images, or maybe you have lots of different products, then 3D graphics are a better solution, because you don't need to generate all of those images beforehand. Some examples of that then we have one customer that has over 1 million combinations for one of its products, and that's a really good use of 3D. trying to render that many static images beforehand would be a real problem. So, in this case, 3D graphics was the best way. Their product isn't particularly complicated. It's just the way that the combinations can sit together. So by having a 3D graphic, they can show the customer exactly what it's going to look like with the color options and the differences in the way the configuration is quite easily and quickly. So I'm going to, let's take a look at the interface and let's take a look at the 3D side of things. So if you have a screen that's your view screen, using your controls at the bottom, if you just want to make that view screen a lot bigger, you can see the image in a bit more clarity. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone's done that. Let's play the video. So there's no sound on the video. I'm just going to talk over it. We didn't want to do a live demo because with this software that we're using, it's quite difficult to swap from me showing you my computer to then go back to the presentation and slides. So this is pre-recorded. It's about 5 minutes long. And again, if you want to ask questions, we can ask questions at the end, or we can show something else, maybe as a different session or as a lead on to this. So let's have a look at this then. Ooh, I haven't put it up. Okay, so this is our 3D viewer. If I can just, yeah, so it's very quick and easy for me to get into the product and start to manipulate it round. We've got some options there on the right-hand side in terms of, I'm just using a mouse, just a 2-button mouse to manipulate this round. And it's quite easy to manipulate it, zoom in, zoom out, look at it from different angles, different edges, And this is our 3D product. So this is the 3D tool that you've just seen me talking about. On the left-hand side here now, I'm going through a configuration. As I pick options then, there are options that I can't have. So it disappeared there because it couldn't give me the configuration based on the selection that I wanted. I had to configure different options. But I'm just simply some standard sizes that we've got, clicking between them, and the model updates and changes size. Also as well then, we can actually put a custom size in. So this is maybe getting towards that engineering to order idea. We make standards, and then we also have custom sizes that you can pick. Here I'm changing the color, and I've got some screens that I'm flicking through to give more information or maybe more description. And again, from an engineering to order point of view, we could add that more description in at that point. Maybe I want to see the product in a different way, so we're turning off the visibility of certain elements. And maybe you've got a cover and you want to see inside. And I'm moving here just position of the model. And this could be that you could have something that opens and closes. Some technical specifications on the model here. I put in a pressure rating to start with, and we can see that all through. And at any point, we can go through those and change them and add other information that we might want. Also, in the top right-hand corner, as I'm doing that, you'll see that the price is updating. So whatever I change, however I want it to be, we're given a real-time estimation of the cost. And in this case now, we can also connect other items together. So we have the ability to build up configurations. In this case here, we're adding on an end, and we're also adding in the connections for the hydraulics. And we can also add in, as we do this, the information for the actual hydraulics themselves. Remember that in the background, our bill of materials is building up. So whenever we add these elements in, the bill of materials is adding them to the bill of materials information that exists in the background. Thus, we're getting a full detail of all of the product. And again, some options here just from a graphics visual point of view, looking at, in this case, moving the hydraulic position around. So there we go. On the left-hand side, there's a full list of all the parts that we're wanting to order as part of this. And we just can scroll through and check everything that we want and make sure everything's accurate. Once we're happy with that, then in the top right-hand corner, if I press ready, we can now start to fill in some order information. Here we could get the information from a list, and we'll talk about lists in a minute. This could come from our CRM system, customer database information that we've got, or if you're a repeat order. We can add some extra notes or extra description in. Again, this might be specific to this customer or this order. This is, again, the engineering to order side, where you might want to make special information or special requests. We've entered all that information, and then there's options at the bottom there where we could generate the model or generate reports. We can see the model that we've got, and we could go and edit it if we need to. We can also make a copy of it. So we can have multiple products in a shopping basket here. In this case here, I can add a copy of it, so we end up with 2, but I could then go and customize the second one. The report that I'm going to get here is just a Word report. It's just a simple Word document, and it's just a sample that we put together. It has all the information for the configuration that we've just made, all of the parts that you'll need to make it, plus also all of the specification in terms of sizes. We can see there that the custom size in the length that we put. We can see that it was made of steel, and red was the color choice for the paint that we wanted. So it's given me a quoting document, a sales document. This is what we actually ordered. We're making sure we capture all of the information. And if we just go back to the order history, we can see that that order is one that we've made, and there's many configurations in there. And just back to the top level. And we could go now and configure another product. And I'm now just logging out as my administrator. So different logons with information that we get there. A really, really good, a good example of a 3D demo. Hopefully you saw that at the right size. That's really great. So let's go and investigate just a little bit more on what we saw in that demonstration there. We saw lists that were available there, either a static list or a dynamic list. And what's the difference? You'll have both of these in your organization, but what's the capability, what we can do? With a static list then, a static list is a list that just contains values that don't really change very often. We can import the list from any other pieces of software. So don't just think about a text box list of options or a spreadsheet. We could import a list of contacts from your CRM system, or maybe we could import a list of production times or costs from a sheet. Maybe we could update loads of information like that. So it doesn't just have to be information that is kind of inside the configurator. We can go and access other systems around the organization. So yeah, static tables, lists, bolts, nuts, things like that. Company internal lists. Maybe you have a discount code for a particular customer, so when they enter the customer information, you could pick up a discount code. Maybe it's stock prices, maybe steel prices, that kind of thing. They don't change that often, once a month, once a year, something like that. But those could be included in the information. Just some examples here of the kind of list that we've got then. Spreadsheet lists on the left-hand side, lists of components on the left-hand side. As we've said, we might pick up customer information from our CRM. Maybe it's contact information, delivery address information, that kind of thing. Anything that's a list in your organization, we can tap into that and mean that the quote that you produce is very specific to that customer, or the quote that we're given is very unique to the customer. If we look at dynamic lists then, dynamic lists are a little bit different. Again, we can have multiple dynamic lists, multiple static lists to make up the product. With a dynamic list, we saw an example of a dynamic list in the cylinder demo that I showed you there, and that was the pressure. By adding the pressure then, we needed to do a calculation on the seal types that we would have, or maybe it's to do with the connection types that we have, or anything where we need to do some calculations, then we can have a dynamic list. Anything where we have multiple, where you have to do a calculation, really, yeah. You can import again from any source. Some examples of that might be, again, anything with a mathematical calculation. Maybe you're using a spreadsheet to do that at the moment. You can keep in the spreadsheet and we'll just import the results, or you can move the whole calculation into the configurator. We can also calculate some unusual things, so things like an FEA result, thermodynamic calculations, calculations like that. We can run the calculations in the background and then we just import the value. We can also integrate to the PLM system. We have our own PLM system, but we can integrate into others. And so really just, anything here, anything you think about that has a formula or a spread or a way of calculating it, a graph that could be produced from it, we can use that. That's a dynamic list. And again, we can have multiple versions of those. Something simple and quick that be calculated, we can do it on the fly. Otherwise, we'll have to pre-calculate it. So then process. In the demonstration that I showed you, we didn't really touch on process. It was quite a simple, easy process that we looked at. There was no stage gates to go through, no information. From a process point of view then, anytime your configuration goes through stages, or maybe you need routing of that configuration for approval from different areas, or maybe there's different information depending on how complex it is that you want to add in. Or maybe, if it's a quote, we need certain information, but if it's going to be an order, we then need to fill it, make sure the delivery information is filled in and things like that. So again, stage gates, stage processes that you might have in that configuration's life or that product configuration's life from start to finish. Could be really simple, it could be simple as one stage, or maybe there are no stages, or maybe it's more complex, yeah, as I've said, it could be an order, it could have different values. It could need to get, populated with information. The more complicated or the more it goes down the system. Maybe you tick a box and say you want, go for a particular option, and more information is needed to be filled in around that. Really hard to show process as an example, but a simple process could look something like this. It just has to go through some stages or some gates in order to get to the end. A more complicated process could give you choices depending on which option you pick denotes which route you go down, and as a result, what information is needed or what comes out of the end as a result. Process and workflow are nothing, though, without people. And it's the people in your organization and the customers that you interact with that will help with that workflow. And the more complicated the workflow, the more you'll need people to integrate with the workflow. It could be groups, it could be users, it could be permissions for people, it could be roles. So you saw in the demonstration there of the video that I was logged in as one user. I was a user called admin. And that would give me specific information or rights or things that I could do. Maybe if I logged in as a different person, I would get different information. So people as part of the workflow, different users and groups, people can have different permission, people can impact on the configuration. Some examples might be for that. We could have two different groups. Maybe there's a basic group and an expert group with different possibilities for the configuration. Maybe as an engineering person, you might have more awareness of what the product is and how it could be configured and the options, and you may get some more options depending on a basic user, for instance. Maybe you could have an internal salesperson, a reseller, and an end customer. And again, the end customer might get some options, things like color and adding in options. A reseller might get some more choices that they could make. And then an internal sales might get access to all of the configuration options. So again, it depends on who you log in as to what you have. So process is great, but it's nothing without the people. Yeah. And a great example here, look, as a salesperson, if I log on to the configurator, I get a choice here, and there are maybe two options or two routes I can go down. But if I'm a designer and I log on, I know I have more control over the configuration. and I can really start to tailor it a little bit more. And again, that leads into the engineering to order, that as a designer, we really might know where we need more information, where we need some more specification, where we might need some more customer interaction. From a people point of view, then, it might be that we have multiple people to approve the workflow as well. Maybe someone in sales, someone in production, and someone in design all need to approve it before we're actually going to accept the order. So then let's look at quantities. So quantities are something that we've had a look at from a very simple point of view at the moment. From a quantity point of view, then, the simplest thing that we could work on is just one product. And again, in the example that I showed, you saw that we were just configuring one cylinder. It wasn't a cylinder, a group of cylinders or a range of cylinders. Maybe we kind of did, 1.5 products because we added some end configurations, and we also added in some connection port types. But really very simple. It's very at the lower end of what we can configure. We could also configure multiple products, and maybe if that cylinder fitted into a more complicated equipment, that might give us some choices to configure that as well. We can get up to the point of view, and I tried to show it in the demonstration that we had, and it was quite hard to see, but we added that cylinder to a shopping basket. It meant that we could go back now and configure multiple different cylinders and then place one order at the end. So rather than placing 10 orders for 10 cylinders, we could configure 10 different cylinders with different quantities and then order all of those at the same time. Remember that in the background, the bill of materials information is building up. And I'll talk a little bit more about bill of materials. Bill of materials is something that Symetri is really good at. And the Sovelia family of solutions, again, around our PLM solution, bill of materials is really important to us. And we know it's really important to our customers. We know it's really important to the engineering teams within our customers. So quantity. Again, yeah, one-off product. A good example was the cylinder that we had, or Dune, that plow example that we showed. But we could also have shopping baskets, which could include many products. Some examples of that then, if we look at it, so we see here on the left-hand side, that plow that I showed you before, it's one product. We've got different options around it, but it's still only one product. A good example of a shopping basket then might be something like IKEA. I want to configure a kitchen. There are lots of different elements or pieces of that kitchen, but they all build up to make, my kitchen. So we might want to go in and configure the different elements, but as we're doing that, the price is building up for the whole thing. And in the end, we then get one order that needs to be placed that has all of the information in for our particular order. Or I suppose a kind of in-between house of that is that we have a product or a few products that need to go together. So not the extent of a whole kitchen, or maybe it's a unit and we have options for drawers and cupboards and color and configurations with sinks in this case, or maybe it's a cupboard, height, number of shelves, width, that kind of thing. So anywhere between one product and a basket of a whole kitchen, we can cope with any of the quantities of the products within those. So then we get on to inputs. We've kind of talked about the inputs already. One way of looking at those inputs might be from our static lists and our dynamic lists that we've had. We want to interact with information that exists in the system already, and we want to import that information. So input-wise then, it can be on-premise, or it can be a web-based input. It can be in the form of data, or it can be in the form of documents. Maybe the cylinder that we had there has a specification sheet with it. It might be that I want to show that specification sheet, or maybe it's a PDF that we have. And again, that's not a data, that's a document, or that's important information, or maybe there's a terms and conditions that we want to offer to the customer and show that. So we can have 3D information, 3D files. We can look at graphics. We might want to import some results. We can also maybe link to SharePoint, and we've had a number of customers who've linked to their customer's SharePoint site to get documents and use that as a storage repository to put standard documentation in to start with. So lots of different ways of inputting information, and a list or data is just one of them. So again, we can get data from all sorts of areas. It might be a business system like your CRM system. We might want to fetch parameter data from a PLM system or some other spreadsheet. We also might want to have it from file. It might be from Excel. It might be from Word. Loads of different options, really. I don't think there's anything we can't import from. And then we start to look at the outputs. So from an output point of view, then, again, you saw that I outputted my information to a document. And in this case, we prepared a document, which was a Word document, a very simple Word document, just highlighting the configuration that we'd made. And we then could give that to the customer, or we could email it to the customer, or they could download it with the information on for the particular product that they were configuring. A one-off document configured on the fly, made for them specifically. We could do that, it could be an email that we output to them. Or if you like, at the back end, we can actually output information to our systems to mean that they can, we can work down the line with the configuration that we've got. So simple Word, Excel, we can output also to Inventor. I'm going to talk about that in a minute in a little bit more depth. We have a really specific super solution around Inventor that I'm going to show you in a minute. We can also export to external business systems. So again, it might be PLM, it might be our CRM system, it might be our ERP system to put the information straight into our production without having to enter any more information. Yeah, so we've just got some examples of those there. So I talked about our output, and I talked about our output that we have. And I want to touch on an area of the product that's developed quite rapidly, quite recently. And it's also an area of the product that a lot of our customers, because they have Inventor, because they might have maybe one of the other Autodesk products, something like 3D Studio or maybe Revit, that a lot of our customers are utilizing. And it also makes Symetri quite unique, I think, in the market in terms of the configuration that we're offering. So if we look at the design automation side of things then, and that output side, we can start to build up a picture. We have our configurator. In this case, we've got a link to our ERP system. But what we can also do is we can also install onto local design workstations our design automator software, which is a connection to the configurator. In this case here, we're going to use Inventor, or we've got Inventor. So inside Inventor, we actually get another toolbar, which is our design automator. What that allows us to do is that when we push that design automator button, we can get those recipes or those configurations or those quotes that have been stored inside the configurator, and we can start to act upon those. So here's my orders. We saw that list of orders that we have in the product. One order is okay, but we actually want more information in that order. In this case here, a full list of information is being built up inside the order. We're taught that the bill of materials is building up inside the configurator. We haven't touched any of our design software yet, but we get enough information to start building the product. So inside our Inventor, we can actually go and select the configuration that we want, and then we can hit the button to say generate. Now, we can then link the bills of materials information to a model. We can also use iLogic and the logic behind that, but we can actually then start to automate the production of a model based on the bill of materials information that is inside the configurator. We can also then from that produce drawings, and using again iLogic, and again that's something that Symetri is very, very strong in, we can automate the production of drawings based on the iLogic information. So from my configuration, once we're in design, from a design engineer point of view, sitting in front of Inventor, gather together the configuration. I can have that configuration in a more detailed look. I can then go and make the model for it, and the model then, I can also make the drawings and all of the downstream documentation that we might need for our product and our production and our engineering based on that. So that's really, really, it's a really powerful solution that we have. That means from an engineering point of view, we're very focused on engineering side of configuration. So we have a great product in Configurator, and we also have a great link to the engineering and design department. We've got some great customers using this, and we have some great material available. Unfortunately, though, I can't show any of that information. We have a lot of reference cases, but I can't, again, show you as many reference cases on here as I would like. Many of our customers are very secretive about the information that they have in Configurator, and also the fact that they're using a configurator. Again, these are just the customers that we've approached and we've got an agreement with that they will be reference cases. I could fill that sheet with graphical images of the customers that we do have, but unfortunately, I can't share that information with you because they won't let me. So what do you need to get started then? What do we need to get started on a configuration? What do we need to work out what we're going to do with all of that? Well, the first thing that we need is we need that rules-based engine set up and installed somewhere in the cloud or somewhere on an internal server in our organization. And what we tend to do is we tend to have a discussion or a scoping process with you to start with, to work out which of those elements that we've just talked about you might want or you might want to take advantage of initially. And then we'll build a configuration for you on your computer. Now, again, another beauty about our configurator is that everything exists already, everything is there, and all we need to do is use the modules or use the elements in the correct way. So we don't need to build anything from scratch. We just need to make sure we put on the right information for you. So everything exists already. It's all got some basic workflow, some basic functionality in it from the word go. What we then like to do is like to spend 2 or 3 days with you, depending on the elements that you picked, showing you, for instance, how to make a 2D model, or how to work out workflow, or how to use the lists from a particular system. So we'll spend a couple of days giving you some background training. We can do that on site, but with the current climate and the way things are going, we tend to be doing that virtually. I sat in on a course last week where one of our training guys in Finland who was available gave a training course to some guys in England, because the guy in England who's our dedicated resource was busy with another customer. So we can share resources throughout the organization. What we then like to do is we then like to take 4 or 5 days mentoring you, going through one of your configurations on one of your products, and we'll identify that in the scoping session to start with, taking one of your products and making it a configuration. We want to give you the information. We want to teach you how to do it. we don't want you to be reliant on Symetri. We want you to, go ahead and make the configurations. Give you an example. One of our customers, once we'd given them the information and they were happy with the process, they've gone on to configure 163 different products in their range, of which they've done all themselves. We just showed them how to do the first one. And again, mentoring throughout the process and beyond the process as well. Maybe there's something in the future you want us to get involved with. Maybe you want to make that step from 2D to 3D. Again, we're there. We're not going to disappear. We can show you how to use the functionality of the system, but at your pace and as you want to. So that's what you need to get started. Just to give you some kind of project cost or some outline of what it costs, just as a summary. And again, this is a rough figure. In the first year, then, to set up the project, you'll need a user license to access the system. That's on that web-based side. And again, that's one user concurrently. So you might have multiple people that log in and log out, as long as there's only one person using the system at any one time. You'll have the administrator in the background, the person who's actually doing the configuration. That requires a license as well. There's a license for the server engine, and all of those tend to get bundled together, all those 3 licenses. And then we have a cost for setting up the project and delivering the project. So for the first 12 months, the first 12-month period, including your training and getting you up and running with your first product and being able to configure it yourself, we're starting in the UK, from a UK pricing point of view, of about £25,000. And you can convert that to euros or dollars or whatever it is that you need to do. In subsequent years, then, you've had the training, you should be up and running, you should be able to use this, providing you only want one person at a time, i.e. you don't want 2 concurrent people logging on, then you shouldn't need any more licenses. So in the second year, then, you'll only need your license still to access the web side of things, your administration side so that you can get in at the back end and configure it and add as many products as you want. And we don't limit you on the product numbers. You can add as many as you want. And then the license cost for the server. And again, we update the server from time to time. So updates become available. And as updates become available, you'll get access to those and you'll be able to take advantage of that functionality that we have. So typically for a license cost for a year, then it's about £12,000 for the licenses. And again, we don't limit you to how many configurations you make with that. We don't limit you, to how many users you use, other than they have to use the system one at a time. You can buy more licenses to mean that you could get 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 people all using the system at the same time. But that gives you a rough idea on the cost side of things. Okay, so talked a little bit more, I always do. We've got to the questions and answers section. I'm going to turn on my session there and mean that, again, there is a section for questions and answers. If there's any questions and answers that you may want to ask, please do so, or you're quite free to ask us later on if you want any questions and answers. So I'll stop talking and take a glass of water and we'll get some yeah. So yeah, we've had a question there about, is this presentation going to be recorded? Yes, this presentation will be recorded. And once we've gone through the process of sorting it out, we'll make it available on various platforms. And I think we'll send you out a link to your, how you can get access to it. Any more questions? Again, I realize that maybe the questions you might want to ask are quite difficult to ask in this environment. So, please feel free to approach us afterwards with specific questions that you might have. Again, my information is in the links, and also we've got links to the Sovelia site where you can get information from. And you can also log your requests or calls or information on there. So I've had a question in there about shrink wrapping and shrink wrapping models. Can we shrink wrap models, and can we export a shrink wrapped model? Yes, we can. We can do that. However, what we tend to find is that using that design automation route, we put the control into the designers, and designers tend to want to customize the shrink wrap that goes out. So one other way of doing it, rather than sending out a shrink wrap, might be to actually open up or create the model inside something like AutoCAD or Inventor to start with, and then get the designer to customize the shrink wrap and send it out. Yeah. We've had a question about licensing there. I don't know what kind of licensing you mean. So there are different kinds of licenses. There's a user license, there's an administrator license, and then there's that server license. You shouldn't need another server license, because you only need one server to run the system. You shouldn't need another administration license, because that's only one person logging into the system at any one time. So the only thing you might want is you might want a user license. And remember that our user licenses are for a 12-month period. As many people as you want can log into the system, but they just have to do it one at a time, or one's available. If someone's logged into the system and making a configuration already, then if someone else tries to log in, they'll get a warning to say, please wait for a license to be available. If you want more than one person, you want 2, 3, 4, whatever people logging in, then the cost is roughly about £1,000 per license for an additional license. And that would then mean that 2 people could log in at the same time. We do have some special cases where we have one customer that has over 300 clients that they all want to log in. In that case, we've come to a special agreement with them that they have an open, up to 300 licenses or up to 600 licenses or something like that. So if you want lots and lots of people to log in all at the same time, or all be using the system at the same time, then we can start to look at costing and reduction in costing for a volume. But typically, starting with one license, for a lot of our customers, that's all they need. You only ever get one person configuring at any one time. As maybe your Salesforce grows, then you might want more licenses. But you'll find then you're making more configurations and you're producing more and more quotes. And the conversation is quite an easy one from a cost point of view. It's not a huge cost. Okay, so we're coming up to the hour. Those are the only questions we've had. If there's any more questions, again, you can answer it. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it all made sense and I didn't rush through it too quickly. There's a heck of a lot to get through there in one presentation, but it should mean now that you've got more knowledge and more information to start your journey or ask the next question that you might want to. So thanks very much. Ooh, there's one more question come in, so I can just talk about that. Can the generator export drawing packages? Yes, you could do that if you did that through that design automator. So you would export the model out to Inventor, and then there's all sorts of different various ways in Inventor that we would automate the drawing and the drawing packages. And we could really customize and tailor that, probably using iLogic or something like that, to get the exact information that you would want for drawings and drawing packages. And again, what you want to do with those drawings and drawing packages beyond that, again, is it the raw drawing files that you want? Do you want them as PDF formats? Do you want to put them into your system? Again, we could export that information out to maybe your ERP system or a PLM system as part of that. Does Design Automator and Inventor work together?
Yeah, with files stored in the vault. So yes, it does do that. Again, we have lots of different systems in place where we would check the files out of Vault to start with before you would then start making the configuration of them. But yeah, it works with Vault and it works with files in the Vault, not a problem. Okay, we're up to the hour. I'll just leave it open a little bit longer for any more questions that might come in. We will put replies to the questions on the website. Yeah, and we will answer them with the recording. So we'll send you answers back as part of that. Thanks, Latta. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great morning, day, evening, afternoon, and we'll see you on the next session really soon. Thanks for your attention.